Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming. My name is Nicole Hancock, and I'm the dietitian, one of them at the hospital. So today we're going to talk a little bit about clean eating. So you guys first give me your idea. What do you think clean eating is? What are your idea behind a definition of that? What does that mean to you? Horrible. Okay, that's one idea. Tell me something else. No additives. Okay. Okay.
The end of fast food.
The end of fast food. Okay.
Lots of water.
Lots of water. Okay. Okay.
Whole foods.
Whole foods. Okay. Any other ideas? Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the concept. Whenever clean eating, the term first came out, it was, oh, another fad diet. I'm going to be a clean eater now. Because again, in our society, we have to label everything, right? You can't just eat normal. You can't eat healthy. It has to have a term on it. I'm going to follow the following plan, and that plan's name is this. So this came out, and that was, again, the exact same thing that we talked about there. So we're going to break it down and give you some of the principles of what it means, and really and truly to me, clean eating is just normal eating. You know, so I'm going to give you some of the ins and outs of that as well too. A couple of definitions that I really liked that were provided. Fitness Magazine labeled it as, at its simplest, clean eating is about eating whole foods or real foods, those that are or minimally processed, refined, and handled, making them as close to their natural form as possible. And I thought that was a very good definition to get you to understand a clean food is just the food itself. It's not the processing that goes along with it. It's not the bag that you get it out of. It's just the food item in the original state that it was found in. So another one is WebMD, and they give 6 principles, which I'll be honest, I don't agree with one of the principles, and I'll walk you through that in a minute. But again, they say the same thing that we always recommend. Eating breakfast, eating 2 to 3 servings of healthy fats, eating fruits and vegetables, you know, things like that. That's what they view kind of clean eating as. So let's break it down a little bit more, because the reality is, okay, well, this is great, and I'm supposed to have a real food, but how do I know if my food is real, fake, or indifferent? What does all of that mean, and how am I even going to determine that whenever I go into a store to purchase something? So how many of you look at the actual nutrition label on your food? Okay, sometimes. Okay, how many of you make it past the box of the nutrition label? Okay, we got a couple. Okay, so most people don't. They look for numbers. They want tangible numbers, and they want a guideline of my number has to be either in this range, or it has to be under this number or over this number, and that's what most people look for. Once they find the number, then they feel like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. It doesn't matter anything else about it. But what I want you to start getting a little bit more comfortable with is that ingredient label, which is somewhere around those numbers usually. So you usually have a box saying nutrition facts, and either to the side, underneath it, or somewhere else on the product, you're going to find a list of ingredients that make up that food and make up those numbers for you in reality too. So how do you read that ingredient label? The first 3 to 5 ingredients on there, it's typically what the majority of your product is going to be made out of. Okay? As you get further on down the list, it's less and less and less. So it's kind of like whenever you have a recipe at home and you get to the spices portion, do you ever really take out an actual measuring spoon all the time to do it? A lot of times we do a pinch or a dash, or hey, let me sprinkle a little extra on. Hey, let me taste it. Does it taste okay? Let me add a little bit more. That's kind of what those last ingredients are on that big long list that you might find on an actual food item. It's just kind of pinches of this and that and trying to figure out, well, I need to get it to just that right flavor that I want, so let me add a little bit more of this. But if you ask someone, hey, can you define for me how much you put in there? 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to tell you no. Because they really don't know. They did it by taste, and that's oftentimes how we end up cooking with those spices as well too. So the goal would be the least amount of ingredients as possible, and there is another idea behind that too, but that least amount of ingredients is more, to me, the least amount of ingredients that you can't pronounce. Okay? If you can't pronounce it, if you don't know what it is, that's where we're getting into chemical names. That's where we're getting into additives and things that you may not know what it actually is. So what we want to look at is, let's say I had 2 people in this room, and let's say you each made a fruit salad. Okay? Let's say one of you used 5 fruits and one of you used 2. Is the one with 5 fruits incorrect version of a fruit salad versus the one with 2 just because 2 has less ingredients? No, it doesn't, because each individual ingredient is the real food. I didn't take a blueberry and process it 5 times down the road and then add it to something. So that's where that difference comes between number of ingredients. That's not always true that we want it the least amount of possible. So I like to use the little idea behind you want it the least amount that maybe you don't know what it is, okay, or that you can't identify. So naturally occurring sodium, fat, and sugar. This is where a lot of people also get hung up on, should I get this food item? Whenever it comes to, let's say, chicken breast. Chicken breast, unless you're adding a whole bunch of things to it, is chicken breast, right? Is it naturally higher in fat, sodium, than a fruit is? Yes. Yes, it is. It's one of the higher ends of sodium whenever you look at your food items, but it's naturally occurring. So that's what I want you to have in your body. Your body knows very well what to do with a naturally occurring version of salt, of fat, of sugar, of fiber, all of that. The moment you start adding things in that man-made is the moment we start getting into a problem, and your body says, hey, I'm not real sure what to do with that. So now I'm going to have to figure out a different way to process it and a different way to utilize it to the best of my ability. So that's why someone who comes to me and says, well, did you know chicken breast, 3 ounces, has over 200 milligrams of sodium? Yeah, I did. Well, I thought you said I had to keep it under 200 milligrams of sodium per serving. I did, unless it's naturally occurring. This is naturally occurring. Now, do I want you to go get a cracker that you added a bunch of salt to and made it over 200 milligrams? No, I don't. So that's where that difference comes into play. So trying to identify in your mind, yes, this might be a little higher than the guideline, but it's naturally occurring, therefore my body is going to process that much easier than something else would, okay? So let's compare some products so that I can show you guys really what I'm looking at on these nutrition labels. How many people eat cottage cheese? Man, guys, this is where I always get everyone. Everyone's like, ew, I don't want cottage cheese. What are you doing? Well, I eat it too, so you're not the only one in the room. So what I look at on these is, again, these are 2 different brands. Neither one is an off-brand. I do want to point that out because a lot of times we find out, oh yeah, off-brands, yeah, they're going to do a lot more ingredients because they want to make it as cheap as humanly possible and as bad as humanly possible. Well, that's not always the case. So these are 2 name brands that are very widely known. This one creates cottage cheese with cultured skim milk, cream, and salt. This one chooses to make cottage cheese with cultured milk, cream, whey, salt, maltodextrin, lactic acid, phosphoric acid, and the list goes on. So my question to these companies is, why can this one give me cottage cheese with 3 ingredients, and why does this one need 9 to 10 to do it? Okay? Answer is, they both know that they're catering to populations of people, one that wants the cheapest product possible, which is what they're going to do. Theirs is cheaper than this one because this one you're getting less of the product and more of the processing. So therefore, they have to charge you more because it made it more expensive for them to produce it in the first place on this one. So they're going to charge you more than this one does just for that pure fact and pure reason. But again, if cheese is supposed to be cheese and you can produce it with very minimal ingredients, that's what I'm looking at whenever I'm looking for clean eating. This is as close to the original product as you're going to ever get it to be, okay? Let's look at another one. Yogurt. So this is the exact same brand of yogurt. This one makes their yogurt with 1 ingredient, cultured grade A non-fat milk, okay? This one makes it with that milk plus water, sugar, cream, modified food starch, fruit juice, black carrot juice concentrate, potassium sorbate, sodium citrate, lemon juice concentrate. Okay? This one's flavored, this one's plain. But my question is, did you ever hear me say the word strawberry? This is strawberry yogurt. Now, could you take this yogurt, puree some strawberries and put it in there and make strawberry yogurt? Yeah, you could. 2 ingredients versus 9. Again, the original product. Now, don't get me wrong, is this one easier to grab out of the refrigerator that's already flavored for you and you don't want something plain? Yes, that is very true. So this is where you come to the lesser of the evils. Could I also get probably a strawberry yogurt with twice as many ingredients from another company, absolutely I could. So if you have to think about scaling down to getting as close to clean eating as humanly possible, this might be your middleman for that, as opposed to a different product that's going to have twice as many, but yet it's not down here where it only has one. Because this is yogurt. Yogurt is cultured milk. That's pretty much all it is. And so that's why we try and get people to go towards plain yogurt and then add in what you want to flavor it. So just because I might take this and I might add honey and nuts and strawberries to it does not mean that all of a sudden I'm not clean eating anymore, because all three of those ingredients I add are the real food. So you see what I mean? Just because I'm adding up to 4 ingredients does not make it change whether or not it's a clean eating product. Okay? This one is a great example too, because again, this company realizes, hey, I'm catering to 2 populations. I'm catering to a population of people who want to try to eat healthy, but maybe can't afford it. Another population of people who do want to eat healthy and can't afford it. And then a third population of people who could eat healthy and could afford it and they choose not to, and those are the ones I get to see. Okay? So with that in mind, this company, which is called Kind, they make 2 bars. They make what I call more of a crunchy bar, and then this one is a chewy bar. A lot of people, if they have problems chewing, if they have jaw pain, if they have teeth are falling out, if they have dentures, they aren't going to go towards this just for the pure fact that they can't chew it very well. So this company knows, well, some people really do want chewy. Well, to create chewy, you have to get into some added ingredients to be able to do that. So a lot of times you'll see, well, I may not know what all of those words mean quite, because they had to start the digestive process a little bit more here rather than you doing it by chewing it, because you may have a problem with that. Whereas this one, all that's in it is almonds, that's a natural food, coconut, coconut's coconut, honey, honey's honey, non-GMO glucose. Again, this is a sugar that they're putting in there, so that's probably the only ingredient that's really a little processed for you. Crisp rice is just a type of cereal type stuff. Chicory root fiber is literally a root fiber that they shred and they put in there. And then soy lithium is the one added ingredient as well too that would be more of a processed type with that. So again, outside of you making your own granola bars at home, this would be your next best option, because you know what all those ingredients are. Those are real, natural ingredients that haven't been processed a whole lot, okay? Again, we get over here and you get into twice as many ingredients and some other things that you may not quite know what they all are, just for the pure fact that they needed to create a chewy bar for a different population of people. If you think about kids, how many kids wants to sit there and like break off a piece of bar in their mouth and chew, 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 chew? They want chewy, especially if they're losing their baby teeth. They want chewy because it hurts. So again, this company understands I've got populations of people and I got to cater to all of them. So whenever it comes to what do I choose, it comes down to you looking at that ingredients label and finding out, okay, what's got the least amount of added ingredients that are processed for me to be able to do this outside of me doing it all on my own. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about fruits and vegetables. This is a controversial topic as well too whenever you look at organic versus non-organic. Tons of studies have been done to prove that organic versus non-organic does not change the nutritional value of the food. However, it does change whether or not toxins are going into your body from whatever they're spraying on the food or whatever they're putting in the ground. So what I always tell people, it's really how you feel about toxins. I have a lot of people who are, you know what, I've been alive this long, I really don't care, and I'm not going to go pay $10 for a bag of organic apples whenever I can get them for $3. You know, so again, this is kind of your preference and your choice and your mindset. So the idea behind clean eating would be you'd pick organic more often just to get rid of those toxins that could be ingested into the body. Now, the difference in organic in a store and an organic farm are widely different, and you need to know what those are. USDA organic is what you'll find in the grocery store. They dictate that if it's 100% organic, they have to use 100% free of chemical sprays. If it just says organic, they only have to do 95% chemical spray free. So 5% can be chemicals. Now with that in mind, they are not required to do anything to the soil. So whatever is in the soil, whatever chemicals the soil has been treated with, that's free game. They can do whatever they want to there. They just can't use sprays on the actual plant itself or the food itself. So with that in mind, a true organic farm would mean that I change the soil. One farm in the area has done this, and it took him 2 years to complete it, to do the entire farm, which means we do soil tests. What's the soil look like to begin with? They do a lot of composting so that they can control the ingredients in the soil, and they can control the nutritional value of that soil and how it's going to feed the plant as well too. So you have to think about those differences, and as an educated individual, then you can make those decisions on your own as to what do I feel like is best for my family and what I need to do. But that would be the concept of clean eating, that you're going to get to the most natural and the least pesticide infested item that you can. So some of your local farms where you can do some of those types of things, because this is always a big problem for a lot of people, is they really want to know, well, yeah, this is great, but all I've got is the grocery store. Well, in this area, you do have a little bit more options. Rose Creek Farm is the only true organic farm in the area. J&J Farm just does meat, and this comes to a point of the meat aspect of grass-fed versus grain-fed. Gives you another idea behind clean eating. Whenever you look at meat, the goal would be grass-fed, because grains, just like our grains, theirs are modified, and they have additive ingredients, they have pesticides, they have things like that that are put into that particular feed that they're being provided. So it would be the same thing as how I feed my body. If you cut it up and ate the meat, you're getting whatever I ate, and however I've treated my body over my lifetime. Same with an animal, it's the exact same thing. So a lot of people are like, I don't really understand this whole egg thing, range-free chickens, what does that mean? You know, or all those terminology and words. What they're meaning by a lot of that is these free-range chickens mean that they have the ability to go eat grass. To be honest, they don't have to just eat feed. They aren't cooped up in a chicken coop where all they're eating is whatever their owner is providing them with. And again, that's the same with cattle. So whenever you look at that, or you look at deer or anything else, that's why deer is so lean, because they eat whatever is out there on the land available for them. They aren't being fed by someone typically. Same with turkey, you know, so that's why wild game tends to be much leaner, and it's more considered a grass-fed meat just for that pure aspect. Now farms, the reason they like to use the grains, it fattens them up really well. And you like a plump, fat calf. You want a good chunk of meat. A lot of people complain whenever, oh, this is like no meat on this chicken breast, or this is no meat in my steak. You know, it's very, very small. So those are things you have to think about. Yes, it's going to be smaller because you're losing a lot of the fat. And the grass-fed individual is the same as if you feed your body well, you're going to be a smaller size, right? It's the same concept with them. They're going to be a smaller size without having that extra material to bulk them up with fat as well too, which means your meat's leaner. So J&J and Donnell, they're ones that do grass-fed, and those are options that you can get from them. Falcon Ridge is another one that's kind of in between these two. They do their best to do as least of the chemical sprays as possible, but they don't necessarily treat the soil to where it's truly organic or do full compost. So whenever you look at that aspect, you've got kind of your middleman in there again. So that's what you have to decide, which one's the best for me and how do I want to make that work. Now let's say you can't get to any of this. Your grocery stores do have brands of organic lines that they're trying to promote a little bit more. Kroger has the Simple Truth line. Now recently, yes, their chicken was recalled, saying it wasn't truly organic. So there is some controversy there as to, can I believe what they say? What I love about farmers, if they are 100% willing to tell you, this is everything I do. These are the chemicals I use. This is how I make it. This is what I do on my farm. If they're willing to divulge all that to you, they're not wanting to hide anything. Now, if you get to a farmer and you start asking those questions, they're like, yeah, well, I use my own special mix. So maybe you don't do quite what you say you're doing. So that's something just to kind of think about. The more open and honest they are, the better off you're going to be as far as choosing what's best for me. So Simple Truth, one thing I will tell you that I do love about it is their canned foods is the least amount of sodium in them versus all the other canned foods on the market. So for instance, their black beans have 140 milligrams per serving, whereas like Bush's black beans, they have like 330 up to 400 in there. And that's because they don't cook it in salt and then add salt. They still add salt to the can to preserve it, but they don't cook it in salt, they just boil it. Whereas most of your other ones, they cook in salt and they add extra, and that's why your canned foods get so high, because then to them, well, it's already seasoned, you don't have to do a whole lot to it, but most people still do. So that's one of the things I can honestly tell you I love the most about the Simple Truth brand is their canned items. Do provide a cheaper option to purchase as far as vegetables and things like that and beans, but it also allows you to get very low sodium as well too. So as far as some of their other products, a lot of times I'll buy their eggs just because they are cage free. There are other options out there for that as well too if you don't have your own chickens, so you kind of know what's going on. It just allows a little more flexibility into saying, hey, they probably don't do all grain, so I'm at least getting a little bit better product there. Again, lesser of the evils unless you just go get your own chickens and get your own eggs. So as far as the pastas and things like that, it's all about organic, is again all about how it's being grown. You know, wheat is still grown in a field in soil, so you still have to think about what are they doing to that soil, what are they spraying on it to keep bugs off of it, how is all that working. So again, that organic is trying to say, I'm trying to use the least amount of chemicals as humanly possible to make all this happen to get it on your table. Is it still processed? Yes. You can't go pick a piece of wheat and just eat it. It has to be processed to an extent. So you do have to remember that whenever it comes to grains, which is why whenever people ask me where do grains fit in on this health scale, I usually put it at the bottom. If I had to pick what most of your meals are consumed of, I would say grains would be the last thing that I would add in if you're trying to make a meal. So that's what I always tell people. Think about what's my meat, what are my fruits or vegetables going to be at this meal, and then what is my grains. But we tend to do it the opposite way because we love grains. We love pasta and potatoes and all of those types of options. So just think different as far as backwards there. So you can still have some, but I just don't want it to be the main portion of the meal there as well too. So this is the concept of clean eating, and just gives you a little bit of an idea of what you're looking for, and whenever you go to a grocery store, what should I be identifying for myself and how can I make this happen? I always tell people, take one food at a time. If there's one food that you know, hey, I eat all the time and I eat a lot of it, so maybe I should start with that food item and try and get it as clean as humanly possible. And then you can start making smaller changes as you go throughout, rather than going home, throwing out all your food, and then going to the grocery store and trying to start over. That's very difficult to do, very time consuming, and very expensive. So as you get rid of food items, or you start looking for other ones, start to identify what some of those other options are out there. So is there any questions? Okay, well, thank you guys so much.